What if I told you there's a secret language hidden in plain sight? A code that, if you believe a growing online movement, connects, well, everything. We're talking Super Bowl outcomes, the stock market, even the rise and fall of empires. They say it's the key to reality itself, and it's all based on some shockingly simple math.
And no, this is not a game. As one spiritual YouTuber puts it, this is the language of the gods. People are genuinely using this system. It's called Gematria, to figure out their life's purpose, to find secret messages in the news, and yeah, to try and predict the future.
And this is where it gets really wild. It's spilling over into the real worlds of power and money. Check this out. Crypto communities found that the political ticket Trump-Vance adds up to the exact same number, 133, as the financial prediction Ripple Moon. So is that just a random coincidence? Or is it a hidden signal for people in the know?
I mean, the rabbit hole just keeps going deeper. Believers are now combing through pop culture, looking for clues. They're claiming that a simple phrase from The Simpsons, "excellent burger," is actually a coded financial tip, because it has the exact same numerical value as the cryptocurrency Stellar Lumens. Seriously. Okay, so this leads us to the big question, right? What on earth is this system? How could it possibly connect the White House, your crypto portfolio, and a cartoon burger all at the same time? Let's peel back the layers. First up, who's actually using Gematria? Well, it's a pretty fascinating mix of people. You basically have two main camps driving this whole thing. One group is searching for spiritual enlightenment, and the other is chasing cold hard cash. They're the prophets and the profit seekers. Okay, so what is Gematria, really? At its core, it's a system where every letter gets a number. You just add up the letters in a word or a phrase to get a total. And here's the central belief. If two different phrases add up to the exact same number, they share some kind of deep, hidden connection. And this lays out the two sides perfectly. On one hand, you've got the spiritual seekers. They're decoding their own birth names to find their destiny, hoping it matches up with a phrase like unconditional love. Then, on the other hand, crypto investors are using the exact same method on news headlines, trying to find the next big coin that's gonna moon. And the scale of what they're finding is just staggering. For example, believers point to the number 648. They found that a major historical phrase, the literal address of the White House, a classic conspiratorial warning, and a Bible-like promise of wealth transfer, they all calculate to 648. For them, there's no way that's an accident. It has to be proof of some kind of master plan. So, you have to be wondering, how? What kind of incredibly complex mystical code could possibly be behind all of these connections? Well, it's time to look behind the curtain. And the secret is, it's actually way, way simpler than you think. Yeah, this is the part that kind of changes everything. After all the talk about divine languages and hidden conspiracies, how does the math actually work? And here it is. The most common code being used for all of this online is the one you probably learned in kindergarten. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, all the way up to Z is 26. Yep, that's it. That is the engine behind the language of the gods. But here's the big catch. As critics online are really quick to point out, this whole A equals 1 thing is a pretty modern invention. It shares a name with the ancient, very complex Hebrew gematria that was used to decode sacred texts, but this is like a super simplified, stripped-down version. And that simplicity leads us right to our final section, and what psychologists call the pattern trap. This is where we get into why our brains are so easily hooked by systems like this, and, where it can get a little bit dangerous. So what's really going on here is a little glitch in our human programming. It's called confirmation bias. We are literally hardwired to look for evidence that proves what we already believe is true. And a system like Gematria, it's the ultimate tool for finding that proof, for just about anything. One skeptic on TikTok really summed it up perfectly. Maybe there isn't some hidden code woven into the fabric of the universe. Maybe we're just pattern-seeking machines that are so good at our job, we find meaningful patterns even in total randomness. And this is where just looking for patterns can lead you down some really dark roads. For instance, if you use that same simple A equals 1 cipher, the name Trump calculates to the number 88. Now, if you're a supporter, that might just feel like another powerful, significant number. But critics will immediately point to the historical context of that number.
Since H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, 88 has been used for a long time as a white supremacist code for Hail Hitler. It just goes to show the danger of finding a pattern without understanding all the different meanings that people can bring to it.
And look, Gematria itself has a very long, very real history.
It was a sophisticated tool for mystics. It was even used as a political weapon. Most scholars believe the number 666 in the Bible was actually a Gematria code for the hated Roman Emperor Nero. But this new, simplified version is being used for, well, everything, totally removed from its original context.
And that brings us to the ultimate critique of the whole thing. The system is just too flexible and the world is too full of words. If you start with a belief, any belief at all, and you have an infinite number of phrases you can test, finding a numerical match isn't a miraculous discovery, it's inevitable.
So in the end, that leaves us with a question that's way bigger than just internet codes. We all want to find some kind of order in the chaos of life. But in that search, how do we know if we're uncovering a hidden truth about the world, or if we're just creating a story that reflects what we wanted to believe all along?